As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rangers Radio Sunday morning edition. We got a full house here, and we also have some, dare I say, better hockey to talk about on this episode. I know it's been probably 14 days since we've all been together to talk Rangers hockey after the Thanksgiving break, so long overdue for the next episode of this show, and I'm happy that we have some quality games at least to talk about. The last two, especially against Dallas and Colorado, the two best teams in the Western Conference, have both been overtime games, both been really entertaining to watch. Rangers obviously get 3 out of 4 possible points in those two games, which I think both of us, or all three of us, I should say, would not have said that was possible just 2 weeks ago. So how's everybody doing? How was your Thanksgivings? And you guys getting ready in that holiday spirit now?
It was a good Thanksgiving. Had to work, unfortunately. So, it is the nature of the beast of being in the business. And it hasn't stopped snowing since we've hit December here in Rochester. It's insane. Currently actively snowing. Was able to go to the game in Ottawa, and let me tell you something. So living here in Rochester, it gets cold. It gets cold a lot, but it gets cold in January, February, like mid to late January into February. It was 10 below in Ottawa on Thursday.
That's crazy.
Dude, I have never experienced that kind of cold in my entire life. Like the hotel that I was staying at was maybe 10 minutes from Parliament Hill, and I had to walk. Like, I had to see it. It's my first time in Ottawa. Went to go see Parliament Hill. My ankles, I'm an idiot, first of all. Like, I packed nothing warm. I wore joggers. Like, nothing I packed was for 10 below. And I don't think I have anything that's like rated to
what
be
is 10 below weather besides just bubble wrap?
Dude, these people, you think these people in Ottawa, it was a regular day for them. Like, they're walking around with their coats, and granted, like, it's more likely for them to be in this type of weather. I couldn't feel my ankles, dude. Like, they were walking, my face was frozen, my ankles were frozen. It was so worth being able to see. Like, Parliament Hill's sick. I don't know if either of you have been to Ottawa, or if you get the chance, go to Ottawa. It's another country's capital. It's like Washington, D.C. It's literally, it feels like you're in England, except for the fact that it was 10 below. I'm sure in the summer it's beautiful. I'm sure when it's 75, 80 degrees and sunny and the air doesn't hurt you, it was beautiful. But no, a recommended trip to Ottawa. Giovanni's in Little Italy in Ottawa, one of the best Italian restaurants I've ever been to. So anybody that's out there that's traveling to Ottawa, go find Giovanni's. Food out there is ridiculous. But all that to say, good holiday break, good Rangers hockey that we're watching. Try not to dwell on too much of the negatives and try and focus on some of the positives, because Lord knows that we haven't done a ton of that to start this season.
I'm happy. I'm a lot happier when I'm excited for Ranger games and I'm looking forward to them. And my initial reaction isn't, I have to watch the Rangers. It's like, okay, I got to do everything else so I have time to watch the Rangers. Look, some of the things I said at the beginning of the season are coming to fruition. If you play as good and structured defense as they do, and Igor plays the way that he's playing now because he's back at it, I think we can all agree with that. You can roll the three of us out there for some lines, which the Rangers do, honestly, when you look at some of the players they put on the ice, and they're going to be tough to play against. Again, you have to do it for all 60 minutes when you're as, talented, or dare I say not as talented as the Rangers are. You can't do it for the 55. You can't do it for 56. You can't do it for 57 because you're going to get severely outclassed the rest of those minutes. But when they do it for 60 minutes, and Steven said this on Twitter, they're a very ballsy team to play against. Like, I can guarantee to you, teams are in their locker room after the game. If they beat us or if they lose to us, they're saying that wasn't an easy game. That wasn't a fun game to play. And it's slowly rounding into form, this team. Look, you also got to give them credit. This is happening without by far our best player. And you can see what's happened to the Devils without their best player. It's a tough pill to swallow when the guy that carries a lot of what you do, is out. And Adam Fox is literally the only defenseman with his skill set on this entire team. We don't even have the confidence in any other defender to put them on the power play. So we're literally running 5 forwards on a power play. That's how much he shifts the team. But the team is interesting to watch. Look, they're never going to finish. They're never going to be able to finish. So we got to live with that. And we got to live with the 2-1 games. We got to live with the cardiac Rangers in the third period. It's not going to be the funnest team to watch a lot of times. But you know what? When the game ends and the Rangers have picked up 2 points, I tend to feel good. I tend to feel like I've had some fun for the last 2.5, 3 hours of my life. And we'll see what happens with this team. Is it a little frustrating that every time I see a Hartford highlight, it's Othman scoring or it's Perot scoring? And before yesterday, we had Shiri on the ice on the first line that did absolutely nothing before he put in the goal. Sure, but with that being said, like, I think the Shiri problem was almost more of like who else was on his line. Trocheck has a high shooting percentage, but hasn't been, elite. JT Miller before the last 2 games, and I'm sure we'll talk about him, looked like a dead man. That you kind of look at that third guy and say Shiri sucks. But you don't have to go too far in the past where the Rangers have had top lines where with 2 really good guys and a third line, like a third guy like a Jesper Fast or that filler that does the things that Shiri's doing, and it can work. JT Miller has only done it for 120 minutes, even if that. So we got to see. But there's a lot to like and could potentially be falling into place with this team. And again, it seems to always stop and start with Igor Shesterkin. He's playing great right now.
Yeah. It feels like, I touched on this a bit in private, but it feels like I like to call it like the New York Rangers conundrum that I have when I watch this team. It feels like it is so obvious when this team is playing with effort, and it's so obvious when this team is playing with confidence. I mean, you go back a week, right? Like last Sunday, we're watching this team against the Tampa Bay Lightning play with absolutely no effort and no confidence, and it is about as evident as it comes. They can't play with a college hockey team when they play with no effort. That's where they really show their lack of talent. But when they work hard, when they bust their ass, when they're winning puck battles. I mean, the last 2 games that really stick out in my mind, I didn't get to watch the Dallas game, so I didn't see it, but being there in person for Ottawa, watching that second period, the 2 guys around me, all I heard from the 2 Sens fans that were sitting around me were, holy crap, the Rangers are winning every single battle. Holy crap, we haven't touched the puck. Holy crap, we're getting beat to every single loose puck. And you watch a lot of the game yesterday against the best team in the National Hockey League, could be one of the best teams in National Hockey League history if they continue on the pace that they continue at. The Rangers dominated play for a good portion of that game. And it just shows you how much effort can take you, right? Like, talent, again, can take you so far. It's great. But if you play with effort, you might not be the most talented team, but you can hang in a lot of games. But that's where the disparity comes in, right? Like, Ottawa's not a great team. They're a pretty good team, not a great team. So, that lack of skill probably doesn't, equate to much when you're playing with that kind of effort. I mean, the Ottawa's goalie was awful. Watching him in person, it was not great.
Bad.
It was not great. Some tough angles. And
I said I would have rather pay Igor $20 million than pay that guy anything. He was sick. And honestly, again, just to give Igor a little more credit, like, we dog him when he has like a 9-10 save percentage and doesn't look elite. And then they were showing the stats during the Ottawa game. There's like some teams with like an 88 save percentage, an 88.5 save percentage, an 89 save percentage. If we ever got like that for a steady length of time, like, we'd be trapped. And Steven, just to back up what you're saying, and I've kind of said this throughout the beginning of the season, when we weren't getting results. What you're saying is such human nature, and it makes sense. Like, the Rangers play a style of hockey that they almost have to see that it works and get wins in order to show that effort for 60 minutes, because it's a tough, sloppy way to play. And as we've all alluded to, they have some guys that during their career don't play that way. You got to get Panarin to buy into it. You got to get Mika to buy into it. You got to get some flashier players to buy into a sloppy hockey that I think now that they're seeing that it works, it's finally clicking, and they're able to, play that way for 60 minutes. If they were sitting here at 10, 17, and 3, and their analytics were good, but they weren't getting wins, this would go the other way fast. This style of hockey needed to see wins. And now it's seeing wins. And the nice thing is, like, I'm looking at the East, not a single team scares me, because the Rangers lack, like, where the Rangers are always going to lose. And this is why I said to my wife before 3-on-3 was the Avalanche could potentially run circles around us because skill and speed. A lot of those teams are in the West. Like, are you going to tell me the Flyers, the Penguins, the Red Wings, the Islanders, the Capitals, the Canadiens? Like, look, I'm not saying we're the Lightning. I'm not saying we're the Hurricanes, even though we just beat them. But you put us in a 7-game series against any team in the East, I'm probably not sitting there saying we have no chance. That's why I'm always going to be someone this year that if we're teetering around making that second wild card or first wild card or blowing it up, as long as it's not like everyone sucks and we're like backing our way in, it's like, hey, we're a little over 500. We're playing good hockey. This may be the year in such Rangers classic fashion where the East is wide open. Like, there's no Panthers. Obviously, the Maple Leafs never scare you in the playoffs, but in the regular season, they put up 100 points.
Let's cool it on the. There's no Panthers. I mean, they're the back-to-back Cup champions.
But this is the thing. They're the second. They're the second to bottom points team.
They could be 0-25 right now. You cannot count out the Florida Panthers right now.
You can't count them out, but they don't scare me. They don't scare me in a 7-game series.
That's fine.
They're playing this year.
Okay, so
I know we're cutting
where
you off.
This is where you guys are losing me. And Zook, I love the positivity. I wish I had more of it. I just can't be that positive. The Rangers need to be 4 points up on all these teams to be teetering on the wild card spot, because they've played 3 more games than some of them, 4 more games than some of them. Like, you talk about the Flyers and the Penguins, they've only played 26 games.
When does it catch up? Because I did for what you're saying is actually the truth of the matter.
I looked at the season.
They play like 5 games in 9 days starting. Like, their schedule, like, they may be 5 or 6 or 7 games more than some of these teams by the time we get to the calendar.
They're milking that cash cow.
Yeah, that's why you can't look at the standings right now and say, oh, yeah, they're tied for 3rd in the division, or tied for 4th in the division with Pittsburgh. They're only 2 points out of 3rd. It's like, no, they're really not. They're the last place team in the Metro right now. That's how it is. Even though they're 5-1-1 in the last 7 games, they're the last place team in the Metro. Columbus is 1 point behind them.
Point percentage.
No, but Columbus is 1 point behind them with 2 games in hand. So theoretically, if you look at everything point percentage wise, this is the last place team in the division, regardless of whether they've gone 5-1-1 in the last 7. So yes, they're playing better hockey. But the reality of this situation is they didn't play good enough hockey. And, watching that Colorado game yesterday, I had that same feeling in the first period. Like, they're taking this to Colorado, and they did the same thing on the road to them for 10 minutes of the first period too. But the difference between teams like the Rangers, who are going to be 500 and potentially, in the fight for the last wild card spot, versus the Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, is that when they have a really good period like that first period, they don't leave it scoreless. It's not 0-0. They leave it with the lead. You saw it in the second period. They left it with the 1-0 lead. And even though Sheary came in, scored a goal in the third period, they got it right back. Now, the Rangers, something they haven't done until the Dallas game, and now did it again against Colorado, is they actually found a way to tie it up and get a point, which is huge. Now, in Dallas, they found a way to get the second. Colorado has Nathan McKinnon. Nothing you can really do about that. So it's not a game that I'm upset about. But it does exemplify the main issue, which is the Rangers just simply do not have the talent to compete. It's just a lack of scoring talent. Their defense has been great. Their goaltending has been great. I'm assuming that we'll see Jonathan Quick back for the first time in a couple of weeks today against Vegas. It's just they do not have the scoring depth to really be a true threat this year. And they're playing better at home. They're playing better overall. They're competing more with these top teams, but they've dug themselves a hole with how piss poor they played early on, that for them to really be considered a playoff threat, and I'm not talking about Stanley Cup threat, I'm talking about just a threat to make the playoffs, they really have to go on one of these 8-1 runs and hope that the other teams that they're, competing with either are wins that they have during that run or are just start losing games. Because right now, if you look at the way that the East is stacked up, the Capitals won 6 in a row before they finally lost the game. Carolina's built up a little bit of a cushion. The Islanders have won 3 in a row. Pittsburgh's won 2 in a row. The Flyers are 7-3 in their last 10. So despite the Rangers doing all these things well, they're only 5-4-1 in their last 10 games, while every other team, besides the Devils, is better than that. So they're not gaining ground, and it's very hard to kind of be positive when I'm looking at it and going, oh yeah, cool, they're tied for a playoff spot. When the reality is, no, they've played 82 games already compared to these teams. That's how it feels. So
can I spin this though? Can I spin this though in a bit of a positive way? Because
you could try.
I mean, listen. We understood. Like, how many times have we gone on this show this year and said this team doesn't have talent, this team doesn't have talent, this team doesn't have talent? Like, we've probably said it till we're blue in the face. So, I don't think we should be, sitting here and like being they play with effort, they play fine with effort, and they're able to hang with teams. Like, they will never have the talent, at least the way that they're constructed, to hang with Colorado and really, capitalize with Colorado. And, they get a good win against Dallas. But, we understand that this team doesn't have talent. Where I would like to spin this in the good direction is that we are seeing of how well defensively that they're playing this year. That hasn't wavered. That from night one to where we're sitting at now, their defensive game has been great. Mike Sullivan's system has seemed to really fit in with this group of guys. They're showing glimpses of some of the younger guys. Noah Laba looking really good. Scott Morrow has had a good last few games when he's been out there. He seems to have a little bit of confidence. I don't know how much we want to talk about Matthew Robertson, but Matthew Robertson is I think gotten a lot better than where he originally started at with this team. I mean, it seemed like every night he was making a detrimental error, but he is slowly but surely kind of gotten into where it's a weird thing that I'm about to say, but where Ryan Lindgren was probably supposed to be with the Rangers on like a second and third pair, right? Like, Ryan Lindgren was never meant to play top line minutes. I mean, we've seen that with where he is, but some of these younger guys are really starting to get into this Mike Sullivan system, and they're still sitting here playing good hockey, but in a spot where they could still be in a good position to draft, right, this offseason. Like, they might not make the playoffs, but we're seeing some of these things work out in this Rangers system. The talent's obviously not there, so it's allowing them to look good at times, maybe not win games, and still be able to set up for the draft, which is where we're all looking at in the first place. None of us sat here after probably the first 10 games of the season and thought this was a playoff team. So to see them sort of improve to, now sit here and say, well, there's a possibility. And listen, the Eastern Conference is wide open, but Zook, to your point, nobody scares you in the East. The Rangers are not scaring anybody either. Let's be honest. Like, outside of Igor Shesterkin, which again, a lot of teams have goaltenders that can steal you games and steal you series. There's not a team in the Eastern Conference, especially the Rangers, that, I would be afraid of playing, except for, again, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, who, despite being in, last place in the East a couple days ago, I still would never want to see in a playoff series. But my point to this is saying we know they don't have talent. It's just what it is. They're not going to score a ton of goals, but you can see some of the fruits of Mike Sullivan's system start rubbing off on these younger guys. So to see them buy into it and play with effort and play with intensity and play hard on the forecheck, but maybe not win these games and set up for the draft, I think that's that's almost best case scenario, right? If they just sucked and there was no redeeming qualities about this team and they pick in the top 5 or top 8, 10 this year, then you're sitting here, it's like, all right, well, we got the pick, but now what do we do with it? But if we see the system works, we're seeing the system works with the coach. So it's for somebody that is told on social media for the last probably year of my life, I'm a miserable, negative piece of shit. I'm trying to spin this in a positive way. All right, I'm trying to do my best.
Even your positive way, sorry, before you go, Zook, even your positive way is failing right now because they're 17th in the NHL. So they've played well enough to make themselves, like you said, it's nice to see that they're playing better, but they've played themselves now where they're picking 15th if everybody picked an order in the draft. So it's not even like they're doing what I hope they wouldn't do. They're playing into purgatory because I know that they're not going to compete with these teams for the whole year, especially the way they're constructed. I know that if they continue to compete with these teams long enough, that Drury's not going to trade who he should be trading at the deadline. And on top of that, he's actually probably going to add and do something stupid because he thinks, oh, we're only a couple of points away. So I'm not in a position to have any type of positivity around this team. So I'll take the mantle of being the negative guy on the show that everyone can come out on social media and say I'm negative. But yeah, they're playing better. Sure, they're still not playing well enough to be in a playoff spot. They're playing better than what the other teams are doing at the bottom of the league. So they're actually moving away from that top flight draft pick. And they have a GM who's probably the most inept in the league too. So a couple of all those together, and you have me right now sitting in a position where, do I get happy when they win? Yes. Do I look at the thing and go, okay, they're actually getting back on track? No, because they're not. They need to do a lot more for me to get there.
I'm trying to find this. There was a perfect tweet from Adam Herman yesterday, so I'm going to find that. But Zook, whatever you got to say, because it encapsulates exactly what you're saying. And I couldn't find a way to like fully here it is. This was after the game. He just says can't fault the Rangers' effort. They're buying into what the coach is selling and didn't back down against an elite team. It's on Chris Drury to find Sullivan some talent. That is the problem. That's the crux of all of the Rangers' problems. It's that you have the general manager that can't find those guys, that can't make this team better, that sees this team, fighting and people talk about the trade deadline and general managers going out and getting guys for teams. They talk about how not just how well the team plays, but how much the team fights for their guys and how much the team fights for their coaches. Like Chris Drury would be the only general manager in the National Hockey League to see, his team battling. Like, let's say the Rangers go on a run and they end up second. And again, this is a huge hypothetical, but let's say the Rangers go on a run and, come January or February or the Olympic break, they're sitting here at third or second in their division. Chris Drury would find a way to screw up that trade deadline, whether it would be to, not go for it or go for it and go for the wrong guys. Like that's the whole crux of the problem is I don't trust Chris Drury to do damn near anything successfully.
Yeah. There's different ways to do it, and their calling card is going to be defense this whole year. They're the best defensive team in goals given up in the Metro, and in the East, I'm looking at it now, there's 20 teams, they're seventh in goal differential. So, yeah, would you love them to score 7, 8, 5, 6 goals a game? Sure. The only thing that matters is you got to score more goals than the other team. And some teams do it in a way where they give up 5, they score 6. Some teams literally can't do it that way, and it stinks because it lowers the different types of ways you can win, which obviously the Rangers do have that limited ceiling, but they just got to continue to scrape away these 3-2, 2-1, 4-3, albeit there was some luck with the last two. I mean, you're not always going to score 6-on-5 goals. I think Statboy Steven was putting it out like it's been years since we scored 6-on-5, so you really can't rely on that. It kind of quenches the fact that for Colorado, most of the game, we were outplayed, albeit by a better team. The Senators game, you were even there, Steven. That third period was a classic Rangers third period where we kind of sat on our heels and got outplayed. But, that's going to happen. We can go back to the beginning of the season where we outplayed teams and lost. So it's just kind of being paid back for some of that. I think with the way the Rangers play, they're going to stick around. And it's going to be a lot of, like Brendan said, see what other teams are doing. But again, the Rangers, even with, that over the 10 games, they're 5-4-1. That's not great. It's better than a lot of teams in the East in their last 10. A lot of teams in the East and specifically around the Metro seem to be around 5-4-1, 5-5, 5-3-2. And that's where the Rangers having a really tough stretch. Today's a big one. And even JT Miller said it after the game yesterday, where it seems to be every time we play 2 or 3 games in a row, we get absolutely shellacked. And we just get taken to by a better team. That if they can come out today get a point, even though you hate saying get a point because that means you're going to lose in overtime. And why would you ever want to go in saying you're going to lose? Get 2 points against a team where, look, I don't know. I always say I don't know too much about the West, but I feel like even though the Knights are elite, correct me if I'm wrong, they're elite in a little bit different of a way than the Stars and Avalanche, where they almost they could be like a 2-1, 1-0 game where it's just defensive structure both ways. Let's see if the Rangers can out-style another really good team using their style, where it's not the Avs or the Stars or even the Hurricane where they're going to get outshot, and it's like, can they hold on and just put more in the back of the net? This is two teams that want to win a 1-0, want to win a 2-1 game, and the Avalanche may be the best team in the league doing it. So where we just had 2 litmus tests, can we outplay 2 teams that play a different style and play that style elite? Let's see what happens today against the Knights. Look, if we end up losing a 4-1, 4-0, 4-2 game against the Knights where we look absolutely outclassed, then yeah, the Rangers are what they are. And it's going to be a constant yin and yang all year where it's back and forth. But if we win a 2-1, 3-2 game where we look just as good, then the Knights have stretches or even periods where we look like the better team. I think they've earned the right over this 6 or 7 game stretch to at least have fans get excited again. Because going into this stretch, the feelings around the Rangers were very, very, very mundane.
I'll tell you this, though. It sort of goes to the point that you had just said. We talked about this 5-game stretch being a litmus test. We talk about the offense. We talk about how they struggle to score goals and generate chances. These 5 games that the Rangers have, and they're going to play their 5th one tonight in this stretch that we talk about, against the Lightning, against Dallas, against Ottawa, against the Avalanche, and against Vegas. All 5 of those teams are inside the top 9 in expected goals against in the National Hockey League this year. So those are 5 of the most elite defensive teams in the National Hockey League that the Rangers have played and are going to play in this 5-game stretch. And at worst, they're going to be 2-2-1. They're going to be hockey 500 out of that. And that was a stretch where we would have sat here and said they'd be lucky to get a point out of that stretch, right? So let me also be clear that the Rangers are 6th on that list of defensive teams this year in negating chances. So listen, you looked at Valley's cards after last night's game or yesterday afternoon's game. The Rangers, they hung in with the best team in the league. So, again, it just goes to the point that they have the defensive structure to hang around games. And is it crazy? Like, let me pose this question. With how good and consistent the Rangers have played defensively this year, is it crazy to think that they could go on one of these 10-game runs where they win 8 or 9 games because their offense gets hot? Because Mika is on a heater, because JT finds something, or Trocheck or Panarin finds something. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility with how well they've played defensively and how good their goaltending tandem has been. Not just Shesterkin, but Jonathan Quick, when he's been healthy, has been one of the better goalies in the league when he's played. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility to sit here and say they can go on these 10, 11, 12 game stretches where they win 8 or 9 games because of, they just need to be hot. They just got to get hot offensively.
It's coming up because after Vegas, we go at Chicago, Montreal, Anaheim, Vancouver, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Nashville.
What's stopping them from going 2-5 on that stretch? That's why I can't buy into the team.
Of course.
Just as
it's Jekyll and Hyde. I've been saying it the whole year about Jekyll and Hyde, right?
That 7-game stretch is just as important as this 7-game stretch from what Brendan is saying. Because if you go 5-1-1 in this stretch and then go 2-5 in the next stretch, it's literally exactly everything that everything's saying about the Rangers. They're not consistent. They're back to where they started. But even with that being said, you do have to admit that it does set up kind of nice. If they can go 5-1-1 in this stretch, and then they have to literally do it again. Because this isn't a part of this. You can't go 3-4. You can't go 4-3 anymore. Like Brendan alluded to, people have 4 games on hand on us. We have to start finding ways to squeeze 3 points out of games, which is literally impossible. But that's how many games ahead we've played. But if you can go 5-2 here, and then you have to go 5-2 in another 7-game stretch, the schedule is there for the Rangers. So over the next 7 games, we're literally going to find out about them. Where if they go 3-4, that's kind of it. Like, like the Rangers are what they are. But if they do find a way to go 5-2 in that 7-game stretch, you got to start taking them as a serious team. When I say serious, I don't mean Stanley Cup contender, but I mean a real team that can make the playoffs. So everyone was pointing out this 7-game stretch without talking about the fact that the 7 games that follow are almost the exact opposite. Those games are just as important as this hard stretch. Maybe not, if more important, because if you want, you got to be better than those lower teams to make the playoffs.
Well,
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, everybody plays 82 games, so it's not like they're going to have games at hand on you by the end of the year.
It will even out. And, I'll say just something quick on that, because I do want to talk about the Athletics, Adam Fox and Luke Hughes thing. I want to talk about Gavrikov, and I really want to talk about Alexei Lafreniere and my thoughts there. But you mentioned, right, they finished this 5-game stretch with Vegas tonight, right? So Sunday night, December 7th, they play Vegas. We'll see how that goes. Then they have 2 days off. They play Chicago Wednesday. Then they have another 2 days off, and then they don't play again until Saturday against Montreal. So you're probably going to see that games played column shrink a little bit this week. One, having the only game during the week be against Chicago in Chicago is not an easy win, because they're probably going to go in there saying, we're rested, we're going to take them lightly, and Chicago hasn't been that bad this year.
No, they're a good team.
Then you play Montreal at home on Saturday, December 13th, when the next game after that's Monday against Anaheim, with Chris Kreider coming back, Jacob Trouba coming back. So that is a definition, if you're somebody that bets, of a letdown game, where you're not looking at Montreal, you're looking past them at Anaheim. And so the first 2 games of this 7-game stretch that you are talking about, Zook, are not, games that I think they're necessarily going to be completely prepared for, which doesn't bode well for them. So we'll see how they do. I agree with what you said, right? This next 7-game stretch is almost more important, because you have to show, okay, we handled the big boys. We played pretty well, pretty evenly with them. Now you have to go and you have to handle the people that you're supposed to beat, or at least supposed to beat if you really are a serious playoff team, right? And I think that's where it comes in. And
then then we can move on from this. I just want to, so that 7-game stretch is super important, and then we end the year with 4 games, and that may be the most important stretch of the year, because that's 4 road games at Washington, at the Islanders, at the Hurricanes,
5,
and at the Capitals again. So those four games, again, it's like the way that the Rangers put them in, like you're saying, Brendan, because they have so many games and they lost so many at the beginning, there's no stopping. Like, after this 7-game stretch, it's okay, you got to do it again for the next 7-game stretch. Then you got to do it again for the next 4-game stretch. Then you got to do it again for the next stretch. There's no more time for this team to be middling. They have to continue to win for the rest of the year.
It goes back to my beef with the NHL schedule makers. It's the Rangers at the end and start of the end of the year and the first game of the new year. They 6 games on the road, a 6-game road trip. That is not out west, right? It's Nashville, Washington. It's so Nashville, Washington, Islanders, Carolina, Washington, Florida, outside. Which also, by the way, how nuts is that we're that close to the Winter Classic already?
It says versus Florida also with an asterisk, which is so annoying by ESPN to have that. That's a road game, and it's definitely not a home game. So the fact that it says versus, people are thinking we play Florida at home.
Yeah, we haven't. The fact that we haven't even touched on like the Winter Classic at all this season, except for maybe like in passing, like that game is what, a month away.
Let's have it be meaningful. Let's go on a little bit of a. Let's go on a little bit of a run here, and like you guys,
Florida hasn't been playing that well either, so it's like
the
game's lost a little bit of its allure, especially since it's not like Rangers Lightning would have been a better Winter Classic than Rangers Panthers. I'm sorry.
So I did I did the most basic digging that you could do, but when we talk about this condensed schedule with who knows if the NHL is even going to go to the Olympics at this point, but listen, they built the schedule around it. They're going.
If that was any other sport, it would be the biggest story in the world. If it was like basketball, football, or baseball, if they're building a new stadium from scratch, why the hell are they building it? Let's not even talk about it might not even be built. The blueprint was to make it smaller, and Sullivan said it himself. If anything, he wishes that rinks were bigger. So it could allow more. These guys are literally going to be on top of each other, albeit in a USA Canada game that may be better for US to have it more condensed and allow physicality over the speed. But it's going to be very weird for guys.
That is a sneaky benefit for the U.S., but again,
huge
it's double
benefit.
IHF rules. So if you hit somebody, then you're getting tossed for 6 games. You can't. I was having this conversation in Ottawa. I was talking to somebody about like do the Kachucks, and we're going completely off the rails for a little bit from the Rangers here, but do the Kachucks make the same impact as they did at Four Nations, being double IHF rules? Right? Is fighting an automatic ejection? Is fighting's an automatic ejection?
I don't know what it is at the adult level. I know World Juniors, yes, but I think that it doesn't even matter if fighting's an injection. They're not going to fight in the Olympics. I can't imagine that, especially with the NHL season still coming up. And the Four Nations was different because of where it was. The Four Nations was here, right? This is in Italy. I don't think they're going to have that same animosity.
Nobody bought tickets either, they said. They said like half the tickets were sold. And even the other half that were sold may not be able to go because there's no stadium. But
it's stupid. I don't
Brian Boyle, did you guys hear Brian Boyle
being in Italy?
Did you guys hear Brian Boyle's comments during the game yesterday about that? This is why I'm slowly, not slowly, but I love him on the broadcast.
Oh, he's way better than Maloney.
Him and Faust were talking about, obviously taking, the arena's not finished. He goes, what? It's only taken him 8 years. I heard it takes 10 to build a rink. Like that was hilarious. That was such a good little line. And his delivery of it was so much better than whatever I just tried to do.
They built the Coliseum quicker.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about Nassau. I'm talking about the Rome Coliseum.
They built Rome in a day. So, I mean,
but to be honest,
they'd be able to build.
I love Olympic hockey so much that when I'm watching it, I'm not going to, if knock on wood it happens, I'm not going to be like, oh, this rink is small. Like, I'm going to be so excited for it. So now we could pick it apart. But if it does happen, Olympic hockey is so cool when they send NHL guys. It really is. Even I was so wrong about the Four Nations. I thought it was going to be like a pseudo all-star game. You just don't realize when guys put on jerseys for their country, it kind of takes it to a whole nother level. But I hope it all goes to plan because I just remember the Parisi game that we ended up losing in the gold medal game. Like, I don't know. I never saw – I mean, I did see some Stanley Cup games for the Rangers that we lost to the Kings, but that was probably my favorite sporting event besides the Steelers Super Bowls that I've ever watched. And we lost. But what an amazing hockey game that was. And also, if we're just guys that love hockey, you got to root for it because the stats show that after the Olympics where they send NHL players – the NHL viewership in hockey and people researching hockey and stuff like that spikes to a level that Bettman can't do anything else to get
Look
there.
what happened last year, dude. Look what happened after Four Nations.
Yeah, of course, yeah. After that Olympics, the Parisi Olympics, that was the biggest growth hockey has ever seen. Like, it is so cool. And you learn about other players from other teams and you start to like them and you get excited when then they play your team later in the season. I just hope it goes well because it's so good for hockey in general when it does.
If we're talking bang for your buck, right? Like the Olympics has this huge name. It costs so much money. Like Four Nations might be the greatest thing the National Hockey League has ever done.
Is it going to become 8 nations? Like, is it going to grow?
They are going to grow it. It might not, it's not going to be called Four Nations.
They're turning it back into the World Cup of hockey. Like the whole thing that went nuts with the Team North America with the young stars. So the reason they did Four Nations last year was to get onto a schedule. So Olympics will be this year. In 2 years, it's the World Cup of hockey. And then another 2 years after that's the Olympics. And that's the plan, is to cycle them. So every 2 years you have international hockey.
Love that.
Cool.
Which is better than an all-star game, especially recently.
So the whole reason I brought up this point, by the way, was to mention, we talked about the Rangers, continued, seeming to play every single night. I just run these quick, just looking at last year's schedule and this year's schedule. They're going to play 39 games this year before Christmas. They played 34 before Christmas last year. So they're playing 5 more games in the same amount of time because the season started at the same time this year. So they're really, at the end of the day, right, it evens out. They're going to go 2 weeks without playing, and there's not going to be a ton of Rangers at the Olympics, so they'll all get their breaks. Listen, who are the Rangers that are going to be at the Olympics? Mika's going to be there.
Depends on if the Athletics making the decisions or not.
Like
the Athletic,
the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like
the writers are making the decision.
Well,
Stop.
I'm saying
who's
that
making the decision? Dom Lecision or whatever his name is.
I don't even know who wrote it, but we could talk about it since we're on the topic. I'll pause my Lafreniere stuff that I wanted to talk about, but the Athletic, I don't know who wrote it, put out an article where they talked about the possibility of Adam Fox not making the team and Luke Hughes making the team because Quinn Hughes is already going to be running the first power play. They have guys like Werenski that might run the second. So if Fox is not going to quarterback a power play unit, what value does he bring? Well, he brings a better value than Luke Hughes does at 5-on-5 anyway. So it's an irrelevant argument. It's an erroneous argument. He's been the third highest net rated defenseman in the NHL this year behind Cale Makar and Jacob Chikrin, both of whom are probably going to be on Team Canada, not vying for a USA spot. So this whole Fox narrative since Four Nations last year has been so freaking ridiculous. It's actually driving me insane. I don't think that we're watching the same sport. And it's why I hate when journalists give opinions and think that they're smarter than NHL GMs and all these people, because you're not, especially people that for the most part write for The Athletic that clearly have never played the sport in their lives. It's just like, it's so foul to go there, write an article trying to sound like you're a genius saying, oh, if Fox isn't going to quarterback a power play, then Luke Hughes should make the team, when Luke Hughes' number is at 5-on-5 or worse than Fox's. Your argument is invalid right off the gate. Luke Hughes has been terrible.
The Adam Fox, like you're saying, since the Four Nations, the discussions around him are literally the stupidest discussions in all of sports. He's been out for 3 games at this point, and if you pull up most assists in the league, the only guys in the entire NHL with more assists than him are McDavid, Celebrini, Rantanen, Eichel, and the 3 guys on the Avs, Makar, McKinnon, and Natchez. Like, he's an elite player, and then you want to even talk about the fact that the rink may be even smaller, and you can't get so physical. That's going to also help a guy like Fox, but Adam Fox is elite defensively also. Like, I hate this fact that people think he's this offensive point guard on the power play, which he is. He is so good defensively, and I think his game will work extremely well in the Olympics. And the other side being, no matter how he was playing, I think there's a 0% chance that Mike Sullivan wouldn't bring in Adam Fox. I think there's like other things that get involved with that. I just think that that's why I also think Casey Miller probably has a chance to make the team, even with how bad he's been, just because Sullivan's the head coach. You want Fox. You want Fox. Like you said, all the stats back it up. He's tied for 7th in assists. He's the highest ranked defenseman outside of the 2 Canadians. So from the American side, you can't just send a bunch of offensive snipers to the Olympics and think that you're going to be able to win it if you just send these guys that are rated higher than him offensively, which Fox is still there. But if you look at complete defensemen, offense and defense, Adam Fox is still a top 3, top 4 American defenseman. Maybe you can take American out of that and still have a true statement, but definitely American. He's top 3 or top 4 all-around defenseman.
So I believe it's Corey Pronman that wrote that for The Athletic. I'm looking at it right now. It's The Athletic staff, but they mention his name in there about the Luke Hughes and Adam Fox debate. It's very interesting that you mentioned, obviously, you're building a team. You're not building an all-star team. Go back on Thursday and listen to what Mike Sullivan had to say about building and constructing the Olympic team. He had some really good quotes, and it's very Miracle, right? Like it gives off Herb Brooks and Miracle, where you're sitting there, you're not bringing, I'm not bringing the stars. I'm bringing the guys that work well together, that gel well together, that play the right way, that play the style of hockey that we want to win. And I do believe, listen, outside of the fact that Luke Hughes was specifically mentioned in this article, take him out of the equation, Adam Fox needs to be on that Olympic roster to begin with. I don't think there are, oh my God, wait a minute. Hang on. Is that who I think it is?
Oh, we finally get them. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Now I'm positive. Now I'm positive.
For those that are just listening and not watching, for the first time, Zook's baby has made an appearance.
I hope she spits up right now.
On New York Rangers radio. Unbelievable.
Did you want to? Her name is Avery.
Would you like to
Avery? Not after Sean Avery. People have asked me
that.
Come on. Lucy, relax. No, she watched. I set her off yesterday. She was on a good sleeping mode, and then Panarin put that in, and I literally shrieked. And my wife was going wild. That's like the one thing you got to worry about when you're watching sports with them. But this is a new Rangers fan we have this year. So I would have to see. She was born October 7th. I would have to see what the Rangers record has been since then. A bad thing in my household is I'm pretty sure the Jets have more wins than the Steelers since she's been born. My wife is a
she's a
diehard
Jets
Jets
fan.
fan.
Yep.
So, no, that was settled the first game of the season, but the Jets do have more wins than the Steelers since she's been born, which hasn't been great. And the Jets are probably going to win today, and the Steelers are probably going to lose today as well. And that's where my wife is. But no, I got to go feed her now. I just wanted to have her say hello before I left, and she'll be running around and back for some more.
That's
Say hi.
positive
We're
vibes only
now,
today.
We're an Avery fan show.
And
now.
look, I was born in '94 before the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. My first Stanley Cup that was ever played was the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup. Let's go positive. Let's see if it's in my genes. Let's see if it's in my genes.
No.
That's a ridiculous way.
That's
to
where,
end
with
this.
baby aside, that's where we draw the line. Baby aside, that's where we're drawing the line there.
Oh my God. I didn't know where he was going with it at first. That's ridiculous.
That's
They
where we're
don't
drawing
have-
it.
Although if he bet money on it and that happened, then kudos for him. All the diapers are covered for the rest of her life. All right, but we're talking about the Adam Fox thing. I don't think, first of all, with Mike Sullivan being the guy that's coaching the team, I don't think Adam Fox is not making that team anymore. Last year, Mike Sullivan wasn't the Rangers head coach. There's some difference there, so that's why the playing time was there. But I think Mike Sullivan's seen Adam Fox game in and game out what he could do, especially as the Rangers have struggled to score and how much offense he's actually generated, where he's making the team. Now, if he's hurt and this injury lingers, that's a separate issue. But if everything is healthy, everybody's healthy, and you have a pick of the litter, Adam Fox is one of the top 4 defensemen from the Team USA. And, McAvoy was named to the automatic roster, and I love Charlie McAvoy. I think he's a great player. I don't understand because maybe he's a little bit more physical than Fox, but why everyone is assuming that McAvoy's the better player when every statistical category Fox has always been the better player. So it's just that whole debate's interesting to me. That's all I'll say on that matter. But I do want to talk about Alexei Lafreniere because out of all of the first overall picks in NHL history who have played 400 games in the NHL, the only one with fewer points is Patrick Stefan. And if you don't know who Patrick Stefan is, you look it up, look up some stories about him and in his days when he was a highly touted first overall pick and how bad of a career he had. He's the only one with fewer points than Alexei Lafreniere. And, you start going down that list and you look at some of the other names like Rick Green, Brian Lawton, Doug Wickenheiser, Barry Gibbs, guys who are like, who? Then you get to 9-10, it's Brian Berard, Alexander Daigle, right? So Eric Johnson. Like, these are all guys who either were failed forwards or defensemen. And that's kind of in the realm of where Alexei Lafreniere falls. He's been horrendous. All right. And you could sit here and you could say his two-way game has vastly improved since he was a rookie. And I'll say, you're right. That's great. You didn't draft a guy first overall to be a two-way player. There is nothing in his game anymore that makes me go, okay, I remember why he was taken first overall. I go back to the Florida series in the ECF where he had that move and scored that goal. He was very good in that series. He had a couple of plays against Detroit, 2 and 3 years back where he went through his legs. He had these flashes. He had flashes all throughout the last couple of seasons where he's carrying the puck, making plays, and he still made plays. I think he probably should have, 5 to 7 more points this season just based off of chances that he set up where they haven't gone in. But yeah, exactly. Woohoo. But the fact that now every time he gets the puck in space, he's getting caught from behind. Every time he has the puck in space, full well that he's not looking to make a pass. He's looking to chip it in and forecheck like he's playing on the third or fourth line. It's almost like those first 2 years where he was playing on the third line and was being told this is how you play the game the right way has just stuck with him, and he's not willing to go back to that skill side. And it's just a shame. But for, $7.5 million a year, while you still have the ability to trade him before a no trade clause kicks in 2027, I believe, it's time. It's time to get rid of him. It's time to part ways. Somebody will take a chance on him. And if he winds up going nuts somewhere else, so be it. But he's not going to go nuts here. That's just the reality of the situation. He's been piss poor. There is just not anything left from my viewpoint of saying give him more time. He's had his time. He's had 410 games at the NHL level. He's less than a half point per game. It's done. It's over. He's not on the power play. He doesn't kill penalties. Alexei Lafreniere's run in New York is over, and I can officially say he's a bust.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned it because so at the Ottawa game, I was sitting in between a guy from a Sens fan from Ottawa and a Montreal fan who was just living in Ottawa, and I had to answer both that question from both of them about Alexis Lafreniere. What's up with Alexis Lafreniere? How good is what's the matter with him? And it's just it has gotten to the point where every single night, for the most part, it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes of game time to be like, oh yeah, Alexis Lafreniere is playing tonight. He's so unnoticeable out there. He doesn't do anything that will, turn your head like Noah Laba does. Or I mean, listen,
I noticed Brett Berard more. I noticed
Berard. Yeah, I'm noticing Brett Berard and Noah Laba before I'm noticing Alexis Lafreniere, and it has gotten, like you had just said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but like he's got 3 points in his last 12 games. Like the same people that were sitting here when he had 10 points in 10 games have been awfully quiet. When again, for the entirety of Alexis Lafreniere's career has been centered around 10 really good games and 25 really bad games. There has never been any sort of consistency in Alexis Lafreniere's game, which is why everybody that has been so down on him is so down on him, because you don't know what you're going to get. And it's almost like a microcosm of the Rangers, right? Where it's like, when it's good, it's really good, but when it's average, it's bad. That's sort of like how the Rangers have been. It's his game. Like it feels like he goes through the game with, like, how ostriches just like kind of stick their head in the sand at the sight of any adversity. Like that's how it feels like Alexis Lafreniere plays the game. Like he doesn't do anything. Like he is no more value. Like why? What is stop other than the fact that he makes $7 and whatever $million? Why is he not playing third line minutes if he's going to play like a third liner? And why are we taking away time from an actual prospect in Gabe Perreault to play top 6 minutes, to let a guy that is going to basically play as a third line checking winger play in that top 6 and a failed prospect at that? Another one of the failed prospects, by the way. Why are we going to make Gabe Perreault play third line minutes the same way that we made Alexis Lafreniere play third line minutes, the same way that we made, Philip Hedl and Capo Caco and Elias Anderson and Vitaly Kravtsov and all these guys play in that third line checking role when they don't play that game? It's infuriating. And for the people, I mean, I had people I tweeted
if Alexis Lafreniere wants to chip the puck in all the time, let him play on the third line, and then you don't have to worry about where Gabe Perreault plays. Gabe Perreault could play in the top 6 if he really wants to play that game, and that's his style. By all means, Lafreniere, do it.
Exactly. Like I had people yesterday telling me that points don't matter. He's 7 years into his career. Points matter. I hate to break it to you. Points matter. When the game's not about making. Listen, the game to a degree is making the simple plays and playing well off the puck. And it all comes down to who scores more goals than the next guy, or who scores more points than the other team. Like that's how this game goes. And if you are touted as the number 1 overall pick, and again, we can say it until we're blue in the face, it's just not the case at this rate. You got to score. Like this isn't the second year in the league where you're still learning things and figuring it out. Like by next year, right? Like Bedard and Celebrini might have more points in their career than Alexis Lafreniere has had through 7. I might be wrong. I'm definitely wrong, but
he's at 208. He's at 208 points. So it's not out of the realm where 2.5 years in, these guys both pass him. And, I posed this question in the group chat, but outside of Nashville and maybe Buffalo, is there another NHL team where Alexis Lafreniere is in their top 6? Like if he was on that roster today, he's a top 6 forward. St. Louis maybe, but like even that, you have Robert Thomas, you have Booch, you have Shen, you have guys that probably all have seniority over him where they wouldn't just guarantee him a top. You have Snuggerud, who I'd rather have in the top 6.
Yeah, I go down the list here. Nashville, he'd be in the top 6. Vancouver would be in the top 6.
A fully healthy Vancouver team?
Who's their winger? The question is, who are their right wings? That's the crux of the conversation is who their right wings are. Like they could have a shit. I think Vancouver, he is in their top 6. Calgary, top 6. Buffalo. I don't know. Listen, I might be biased because I get to watch Buffalo a lot being here in Rochester, but Thompson, Tuck, Yuri Kulik is a young good guy that they've got. Not Ryan McLeod. He might be in their top 6. I don't think it's like a set in stone. He's definitely there. St. Louis, I think he's in. Florida, no. Seattle, definitely not a no. San Jose could be. And then outside of that, the rest of them are.
I don't know if San Jose would bump one of their promising prospects for a guy that hasn't shown any promise. It's like maybe Calgary. Calgary struggled a little bit. But you're right. It's only a handful of teams. Exactly. And this is a first overall pick, right? So
he's not.
Most times you have a first overall. Like you look at St. Louis's top 6 on the right side, they have Buchnevich and Jordan Kyrou. He's not playing over either of them, right?
No. Holloway and Neighbors, he wouldn't play. Yeah, he wouldn't play. Both of them are just as good, if not better. Nashville, we're looking at Evangelista and Marchessault. Both of them have not been great. Forsberg, Stamkos, probably not in the top 6 there. Right? Who else are we talking about? What are the other teams that we're talking about?
You mentioned San Jose. I don't think.
No,
Tage Thompson and Jack Quinn, and Alex Tuck is their third line right winger.
Jack Quinn is their version of Alexis Lafreniere, so he could. Zucker and Benson, he probably is in that top 6.
You would think he would have a shot. Buffalo would probably be more realistic than St. Louis, just based on the names that they have. But I don't know, man. It's a sad conversation that's what we're having. Is we have only thought of maybe 4 to 5 teams where it's like, yes, this is a former.
Yeah, no, it's pick. I'm scrolling through just different teams at random to see. Rust, Mantha. Mantha's had a good year. Maybe could. Tommy Novak's playing their left wing. He could be in Pittsburgh's top 6. What was the other one? Seattle's what I talked about.
The system that Seattle is another team. Where
Eberle Kakko. Kakko.
Exactly.
He's in
Seattle
that top
would be there. He would be replacing the other Rangers prospect that we would have been talking about.
Holy shit. That's so bad, dude.
It's a horrendous situation. I'm at the point now where it's the player. It's not even the Rangers development. I understand he didn't get thrust into the number 1 first line, number 1 power play unit right away when he came into the league, but that's because the Rangers had talent there already. It wasn't a prototypical first overall pick situation. This is eventually the 7 years. It's on the player, right? Listen, I could go into a new job tomorrow and be the brand new person, be highly touted. They gave me this crazy signing bonus for this new job, and I don't know anything about the industry. If they don't put me in a position to succeed first couple of years, if I don't live up to the potential, that's on the corporation. If after 2-3 years of being in the business every day and at least doing trial by fire and learning, I'm not better at that job come year 3, now it starts to become on me. And that's just a 9 to 5 day-to-day stuff, right? If you go to the NHL where no matter what system you're in, no matter what position you're playing, no matter what team you're on, it's hockey, right? It's all hockey. If he can't produce as a forward now in the top 6, regardless of whether he's on the first or second power play unit, doesn't matter to me. It's on the player. There's a point in time where it's on the player. He's now played 3 straight years in the top 6. It's on him. He's clearly just not the player that they thought they were drafting. Same way with Kakko. He's not the player they thought they were drafting. And it's sad because if those 2 picks wound up being Celebrini, Bedard levels of players, they probably win a cup in the last 3 years. It's really that simple.
Probably win 2 cups in the last.
Probably win at least. I think about the conference final. They lost to Tampa in the conference final when they had the kid line that everyone was clamoring over. Now only one of those kids remains, and he's probably one that's going to be gone soon. You lost to Florida in the conference final. You lost to the Devils in the first round after trading for a retirement home because they felt like that was the way to go. If you think about the way that they've lost in the playoffs, and you think about what would they have needed to maybe get over that hump? Well, it would be Kakko and Lafreniere living up to their potential and not having to go out and trade for the Canes and the Tarasenkos. But didn't happen. So now you lost picks. You traded for those guys. The picks that you have and the prospects you had didn't pan out the way you wanted. Now you're in this situation where you're stuck in purgatory, and that's just what happened. So
yeah, let's use that example before we go of let's say instead of what was it 18-19. They had 1920 those 2 drafts were. If we sit here and say those 2 drafts were 23-24, you're looking at Leo Carlson because you have the second pick in the first draft. Leo Carlson and Macklin Celebrini would be the two guys that you have on your team. Which Leo Carlson is top 10 in scoring this year, top 15 in scoring this year at the NHL level.
First of all, if you look at Anaheim's draft, like Beckett, Seneke, Leo Carlson, these guys are going. Cutter Gauthier, who they traded for, and people were like, "Oh, you're really giving up Zegras for?" Yeah, well, he's got 16 goals this year already.
That's a win-win trade, by the way, because Zegras has been good too.
Yeah, listen, the Rangers, right? If you look at the 2019 draft when Hughes went first, after Kakko, right? Kirby Doc went, Bowen Byron went, Turcotte went, hasn't really done anything for LA. Yeah, Mo Seider went, he's been all right. Dylan Cousins went, he's been okay. Zegras is really the big name, but he hasn't done much either at 9. It's like that draft wasn't great. Matt Boldy at 12 is probably the guy that if you're doing a redraft goes behind Jack Hughes now. So yeah, I would have rather had the 12th pick and got Matt Boldy, but that's not really feasible. And then if you look at the next year where Lafreniere's first, I mean, we all kind of know the deal there. Quentin Byfield's been pretty solid, but he's got fewer points than Lafreniere, although he's played over 120 fewer games. You have Tim Stutzla, who's probably been the best forward in that draft. You got Lucas Raymond, who's probably the second best forward in that draft. So really, they could have taken any of the two guys that went 3 and 4 and been in a better situation. Jake Sanderson went 5th. That would have really shored up the left side of their D.
Can you imagine a defensive line of Gavrikov, Fox, Sanderson, somebody?
Borgen?
Sanderson, Keandre Miller?
Miller, Sanderson, Schneider, even. It's just better.
You're not trading Keandre Miller if you have Jake Sanderson on your left side. It is what it is. We've gone on long enough.
We have. And in that same draft, the Devils took Dawson Mercer 18th, and Dawson Mercer has 20 fewer points than Alexei Lafreniere in his career. And he's only played, what has he played? Let's see here. He's played 50 less games.
7 games. Yep. Yeah. I mean, Seth Jarvis is in that.
Well, Seth Jarvis was probably the steal of that draft overall.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ty Forster is looking to turn into a really good player for Philadelphia. Jake Neighbors has been a decent enough player. I mean, not really, but he's also played half the games that Lafreniere has played. Brendan Brisson. You got another guy from that draft, another first rounder from that draft. Peterka was second round. I mean, Emil Heineman was second round. Brock Faber was second round. I mean, there's so many what ifs, dude. I mean, there's so many what ifs. Well, Cooley was second round.
It was probably better than the first overall pick.
It was better than the first overall pick.
You could spend hours talking about it. I wanted to bring it up because in my mind, he's outside of JT Miller, who's played better the last couple of games. Alexei Lafreniere has been the most disappointing player. And you could say, oh, what do you mean? You have Connor Sheary, Taylor. Those guys were not expected to be doing the things that Miller and Lafreniere were expected to be doing this year. So if you're looking at me and saying pick the most disappointing player on the Rangers, I'm picking JT Miller still, just because I had a better expectation for him than Lafreniere. But Lafreniere is getting up there and might be surpassing him. Who's not the most disappointing player though is Vlad Gavrikov with 6 goals this season. He's been all the shit I give Drury. That signings looked great every single game this season. So I'll give him a little tip of the cap there. Great final move as a Rangers GM. Get rid of it. Your tip of the Ottawa cap. Hopefully Ottawa makes a trade for Chris Drury.
Do I dare call him the sheriff? Do I dare call Vlad Gavrikov the sheriff? I mean, that dude's he's the eraser. Like he is, and the fact that he's even scoring is a plus, but defensively is such a pleasure to watch. I mean, he is so good. Gap control, stick on puck, physical. I mean, he crunched whoever it was yesterday, almost back into Colorado's bench. I mean, he is just such a pleasure to watch. And then when he steps up offensively, I mean, it was so funny. His goal in Ottawa, I was sitting there and it's so funny. It's so much fun going to games that are not at Madison Square Garden because I was sitting in the 200s, basically at center ice. I think I paid $75 for it, maybe 80.
I know.
I mean,
I got an email for yesterday's game against Colorado where it was like $75 for the 200s, and as soon as I clicked buy, It was gone.
They're gone. They're gone. So I'm sitting like literally, and don't mind the hat. The hat's just, I mean, it's the greatest giveaway that I've ever seen at a sporting event. It doesn't fit my head, but I will continue to have this hat forever. Maybe have to scratch the Sens logo off of it, but it is what it is.
Just tape the new one on.
Yeah, just tape the Rangers logo on. But I was sitting there as that play developed, and it was the first time I think ever in my life at a game where I said before he shot it, I just said, shoot it. Like, saw the open, said shoot it, and as soon as I said it, it went in. It felt so good for the Sens fans around me to hear that and then immediately go in the net. But that dude is unbelievable. Vlad Gavrikov is one of the best signings that the Rangers have had in recent memory. Again, we're halfway through, not even halfway, we're a quarter of the way through year one, and I think it's, he's such a breath of fresh air.
He's been great. You talk about the Rangers defensively being much better this year. Well, you could point to Sullivan's system, and the other thing you could point to is the addition of Gavrikov. And the one thing that I love about him is that even when he does get beat, he's so active with his stick and recovery that he's able to make up for that, right? And you watch somebody like Carson Soucy, who I think has actually been very good for the Rangers this year. I think he's kind of shut us all up, and he's done his job. But when he gets beat, he doesn't have the foot speed to recover, and his stick isn't as good as Gavrikov's is, which he can't get the puck off it, right? And when he gets beat, it looks worse. When Gavrikov gets beat, he still is very good at recovering, putting his stick in the proper lane. He either deflects the pass, deflects the shot. It's very rare where you see him get cleanly beat, and that's what the Rangers have been missing. Guys like Lindgren, guys like that have, when they get beat, it was bad, and it was a goal every time. Gavrikov is able to recover. He's kind of shut everything down. And you could see even playing with Schneider, he's given Schneider more confidence to kind of do more things with the puck. And that's what we all thought was going to happen when he signed with Adam Fox. Adam Fox was near a point per game player before his injury. It's a shame he had to get hurt, but clearly it's working. So we'll give our credit there. But that's really it. Game tonight, Sunday night against Vegas at MSG. We'll see if the Rangers can keep that good vibes going. I know, Steven, you talked about it. Back-to-backs have not been kind to the Rangers this year. And in fact, they usually get walloped in the second half of a back-to-back. We'll see what they do against a pretty good Vegas team and see if Jonathan Quick's in goal against technically his former team in Vegas.
His former club that he won a cup with, by the way. That he has a Stanley Cup ring with, by the way.
Stanley Cup with, yep.
By the way, Jonathan Quick's going to play for 3 teams in his career. He's going to win a cup with 2 of them.
Well, yeah, I guess technically, because he didn't play for Columbus, right?
No, he never played.
He was a Columbus Blue Jacket.
Yes, never played for Columbus. The 3 teams that he has played for, he will win a cup with 2 of them, being Vegas and Los Angeles, and one of them obviously coming at the hands.
What was the third team? The Rangers, right? Yeah, where nobody wins a freaking cup.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's it. You got any final thoughts?
No, I'm good. Go Rangers. Go Jets. Anything else that I could say? Pete Alonso sign with the Mets, please. I'm done with penny pinching. We're not supposed to be doing that anymore. So just throw the bag at Pete and Edwin, and let's get away from this, Wilpon era of the Mets.
Have fun with the Rangers, the Yankees sloppy seconds.
Oh boy! All right, boys. Have a good one. See you guys Thursday.